Shalom, shalom. The brother Azrael of the Hopeful Elect here with another Wisdom Wednesday alongside the brother
Brother Denal.
Khan and the brother Yeshaya is in travels. So I'm not sure if he's going to get on later tonight with us or not, but he's here with us in spirit if he does not. Um, it's the middle of the week, man, hump day, right? So got to give y'all some wisdom for the week. Got to give y'all some wisdom for the week on this Wisdom Wednesday. Got a video I want to go over. And of course, we got precepts and scriptures to go with it, right? The video that I found is a video that I saw on Instagram. And just want to kind of go into some of the wisdom that this coach, I know it's always coaches, but this coach that he's a bodybuilding instructor, right? Weight training, whatever you may have, you right. Want to go over this video of this coach, but first and foremost, want to give all glory and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, um, through His Son, who He sent as an instrument of salvation for the nation, and that is the nation of Israel. Um, with that being said, man, let's get into it. I already know it's kind of late tonight, but I got everything decent and in order pulled up. As you can see, I got the precepts already pulled up at the top for all those tabs. So let's get into this video. As you can see right here, I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but on the side, it says, I got fired and I'm not mad at it, right? And the title of this video is called Better Works. So if you wise, you know what I'm saying, if you know a little something, if you in the spirit, you kind of already know what direction this video is going in. But let's get into it, man. I gotta catch it in time so I can turn the sound on.
By one of my coaching clients, and I am not mad at it. One of my clients in the station for the last year or so went through a contest prep, competed multiple shows, and it did pretty well. A few weeks ago, she fired me. Actually, happy she fired me. My job as a coach is not only to help my clients achieve their fitness goal. My job as a coach is to give my client a lot of information, a lot of tools into their tool belt, so they wouldn't be in a position that they will need me as a coach. It's every coach's job not only to help your clients achieve their goal, but at the same time, you want to give them keys, you want to give them tools, system, information that's going to allow them to have a successful fat loss long beyond the point of where they are working with you. If you're a coach out there, don't coach clients so you can retain clients. Coach clients so you can give them so much value that they too can go on their journey and potentially help others too. All right, about one of my coaching.
Right. So he unpacked a lot in about 60 seconds, man. That's kind of how these videos go on social media. But he packed a lot, man. And some things I want to take away real quick before we dive into these precepts is the fact that he said, if you're a coach, don't coach to retain clients, right? Coach so that your clients don't need a coach, right? And a lot of times in this truth or in the world, right, are the leaders of the people tend to teach or coach or guide in a way to where they're always needed. Why is that? Because a lot of them get into these power trips to where they were never needed in life, and now that they're needed by so many people, they love that attention, they love that feeling, right? But we're not supposed to be like that. We're not supposed to be one who wants to keep all the attention to ourselves, keep all the knowledge to ourselves. That's being a crutch or crippling the people that are underneath you, right? So here at the Hopeful Elect, you know what I'm saying? It's just the three amigos, right? But if anybody was to come underneath us, you know, we would teach them in a way to where they could be their own leader, right? And not a follower of man, but their own leader to where one day they may become better than us. Um, you know, I I talk about this with a lot of people all the time. A lot of times when the brothers be having powwows, and I say, you know, something that I challenged myself with when I came in the truth was praying for brothers that I wanted to be in the truth, or brothers that were on the fence, that they may be able to teach me something, right? And that's kind of hard to do when you see your brother or your sister living in sin, and they live in a best life, and you kind of get feelings towards them. I don't want to say hate, but you kind of get feelings like
Resentment.
resentment, maybe. What am I looking for? You kind of get feelings of like anger, right? You kind of get anger, your temper kind of flares because you just want them to know the truth and to love the truth. And so it's kind of hard to even say those prayers, man, to people that you think are beneath you at some times, that they rise above you, right? Because naturally the flesh doesn't want to see somebody beneath us rise above us, right? And that's why a lot of times you see the backbiting, right? Somebody, you know, nowadays we see people leave churches and start their own church, leave camps, start their own camps, leave congregation or organization, start their own thing, and wherever they came from, a lot of times show hatred. But you shouldn't show hatred just because somebody's outgrown you and they might know more than you and that they're doing better than you. You should be happy because you were able to plant that seed and it watered and water, and it got watered, and now that seed is a beautiful tree that's giving you shade, right? Ultimately, when we plant these seeds, we're planting trees, and these trees are going to grow up and give us shade and give us time to relax, right? Give us time to step back and enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? Which is them. But I want to play this one more time because there was a few other things I wanted to touch on that he said.
Clients, and I am not mad at it. One of my clients in the studio for the last year or so went through a contest prep, competed multiple shows, and it did pretty well. A few weeks ago, she fired me. Actually, happy she fired me. My job as a coach is not only to help my clients achieve their fitness goal. My job as a coach is to give my client a lot of information, a lot of tools into their tool belt, so they wouldn't be in a position that they would need me as a coach.
Right, and so our job as teachers, right, and our jobs as people that are in this faith are to preach the gospel and to give everything, right? We're not supposed to leave nothing on the table. We're supposed to give everything that we know, right? So that they know what we know. It's called each one teach one. Come on, man. You guys know this, right? Each one teach one. And when we give them the tools, when we give them the scenarios, when we give them the faith, right? That's everything that we know. So now, if they know everything that we know, certain things that are given to them will add to that, and of course they'll be better than us, right? And that's okay. Like he said, he was happy.
Every coach's job, not only to help your clients achieve their goal, but at the same time, you want to give them keys, you want to give them tools, system, information that's going to allow them to have a successful fat loss long beyond the point of where they are working with you. If you're a coach out there, don't coach.
Right? Because you're not going to always be there all the time, right? I'm giving a quick example before we go to these precepts. If you're keen to the books of 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, right? We know that there was a priest before Samuel, right? Salakia, am I tripping?
You said there was a priest before Samuel?
No, I'm talking about there's a priest after Samuel, which was Eli, right? And so Eli came after Samuel, but Samuel had to teach Eli everything that he knew, right? And if you read, you know, one would say that Eli was better than Samuel, right? So that's just an example, right? You know, there's always a teacher and there's always a student, a teacher and a student, right?
So you can retain clients, coach clients who can give them so much value that they too can go on their journey and potentially help others too. All right, about one of my coaches.
Right. So the goal is to teach them so that they can teach others, right? And that they don't always need you, because at some point you're gonna die, right? At some point, I mean, Lord willing, we're here to see the resurrection, but at some point your work's gonna be done, right? So let's get into it. The book of John, chapter 14 and verse 12.
Khan. The book of John, chapter 14, and verse number 12. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the
Right.
works
This is Christ speaking, by the way. He that believeth on me, what?
the works that I do shall he do also. And greater works than
And what?
these, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father.
Right? Greater works shall we do. Now that's the master teacher. That's Rabbi. That's Christ. He said greater works than these. He's not hoping that we're lesser than him. He's not hoping that we know lesser than him, that we do lesser things. He's not saying, hey, nobody could top this miracle, right? He wants you to do better miracles than he did. You know why? Because he knows that he's the one that gave you the faith to even have the power to do it, right? When you do that greater miracle than him, that's just bringing more fame to his name, because they know that you're a disciple of him, right? You're an understudy to him, right? You're just making his name greater, even though you're the one doing it, right? So that's a teaching from the master teacher, where we're supposed to want the people under us to do greater works than us, right? But we live in a society where we don't see that, right? We don't see where our leaders and our teachers and our heads of, they don't want to see the students do better. They want us to always see them as impossible to get to, sensei, right? But at some point, if you watch these movies, sensei he comes to a point at sometimes where he taught you everything that he could teach you, and he said, hey, look, you on your own. You know what to do. Right. And then when you start winning them matches and sensei is back in his hiding spot, you go back to sensei, even though you got all this fame with you. Right. If you could read this.
2 Kings 2:9.
Right. This is an example. I'm going to go back to verse 8. Right. Now I made the example with Eli and Samuel. Right. Now let's look at Elijah and Elisha, right? 2 Kings 2:8.
And Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, so that they too went over on dry ground.
Right? So Elijah knows that he's finna pass. He knows that the Lord's finna take him. All right, let's read verse 9.
And it came to pass, when they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me.
Right? Now let's see what Elijah did, because Elijah could have said, What Negro? You want to be better than me? You want two of my spirit? It's not enough just to have my spirit, but you want two of them, a double portion of me? He could have said, man, you crazy. But let's see what Elijah said as his great teacher, right?
And he said, thou hast asked a hard thing.
Hey, he said that's a hard thing, bro. He said that's a hard thing. It might be even hard for his flesh. Like that's a hard thing now, because we know nothing's too hard for the Most High God, right? But he know that's a hard thing. But what did he say?
Thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so.
Right. So if you see me get taken, it'll be granted. Right. So once again, we see a teacher that is not afraid for his student to be better than him. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 12. Once again, Christ.
Matthew 12:42. The queen of the south shall rise up in judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it, for she
this is talking about the Queen Sheba. All right, Queen Sheba is not an Israelite, but her actions, how she accepted Solomon as being the wisest in the land and accepted Solomon's God for being the one true God, right? Because she was able to do that as another nation, that her actions are condemning the actions of the Israelites, right? She's not physically or literally going to condemn the Israelites, right? We know that there's going to be 12 on the throne. We know that Christ is going to be on the throne. We know that these things are going to happen to judge the 12 tribes, but her actions are going to condemn us because the Lord is going to look at, well, if this other nation can see the truth, how come my people couldn't see the truth? That's what it's talking about, right? So go from there. For
she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, a greater than Solomon is here.
Right? A greater than Solomon is here, right? And I'm
Everybody
pretty
wants
sure.
to say, man, Solomon was the wisest man in the Bible, right? Ignoring this precept, saying that there's one that's greater than Solomon. The wisdom that Christ had surpassed Solomon's wisdom, right? If you have eyes to see and
Right.
ears to hear.
And you gotta think too, at the time when Solomon asked for all that wisdom, when he received it, and the Lord said, but there was none like Solomon, right? That means he was better than his father, letting you know the people that we learn from, the people that are our teachers and our leaders, right? They're gonna have to pass the mantle down, and that whoever they pass the mantle down, that person is supposed to be greater.
Con, man, if I could say something too, right? Especially during like coaching and whatnot, right? Precept comes to mind. The things written. I don't know if you have this precept, but the things written aforetime were written for our learning.
Yes, next one. Yeah, so let's go ahead and read that real quick. But hold that real quick. I want to read. Never mind. We can go ahead and read it.
Romans 15:4. For whatsoever thing were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comforts of the scriptures might have hope. And it's a mighty precept, man, because if you think about it, you should be greater than those that teach you, right? Let's take it to sports real quick, right? Boxing, basketball, football, whatever. You talk to the greatest, and if they're your coach, if they're your mentors, you should be greater than them. Why? Because they've reached a certain amount of legendary status or greatness. But just like anybody on this earth that's lived through years, if you ask them, you can ask them a question is a cliche question, but if you could do it all over again, what would you change? What would you do differently? Right? And everybody has times where they look back on their life and they say, man, if I would have did this, it would have been a better outcome or made a better impact, right? Meaning when you learn from somebody else's mistakes that they can't even go back and correct, and you still have time to correct, you can be better than them in that aspect, right? It's just like, well, I mean, in this situation, you're talking about the scriptures, the people, all the stories that's written in the Bible, right? And you see the mistakes that our forefathers made, meaning we can learn from those mistakes without even having to make them ourselves. It says one that's greater than Solomon is here, speaking about Christ, right? Why is he greater than Solomon? Because at least he can look back on what Solomon did that made him to fall off and avoid doing that.
Right. Read this real quick too. Don't mean to cut you off, but read this real quick. Verse 41.
Verse 41. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, a greater than Jonah is here.
Right. So he read, if you see what Jonah did, right, you can learn from what Jonah did and be better than Jonah, right? Now, if he didn't,
like capitalizing off of their mistakes and not doing them,
right? Exactly, man. You that you don't have to go through certain opportunity costs, and you don't have to go through certain losses, right? And what does that look like? That looks like Christ. Even if Christ didn't learn from Jonah, right? He wouldn't have even asked, Lord, take this cup away from me, if it be thy will. He would have just skated, right? He would have skated like Jonah did, but he stayed through. He stayed in it, and he died on the cross, right? So he is better than Jonah, right? So I like, I like that. So let's read this Romans 15:4 real quick again, because I want to kind of piggyback off of what you said, because it's kind of how I was going to end all of this, right? I got one more precept after this.
Romans 15:4, for whatsoever thing was written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
Right. So the patience and the comfort of the scriptures, like the brother said, when you read the actions and the stories of these people, if I ask you to know what's another name for those things, right? The things that other people went through. What's another name for those things? Let's see if you're in the spirit. Starts with a T.
Tragedies.
No.
So,
What's a lesson from a tragedy? Huh?
trials.
Right. So what's a lesson from a trial that starts with a T? You made it through a trial.
Triumphs.
Yeah, you made it through a trial, got your triumph, and it's what?
Test.
That's the root. That's the root word.
A testimony.
Right.
Testament.
A testimony, right? A testament or a testimony, right? So we read these things and we read these people's testimonies, right? Because they make us better, right? They make us better than them. If somebody's becoming a contractor and building a house, right, they're gonna go through a lot of ups and downs, right? For example, I took time and watched a 3-hour process of a kid my age. Well, I'm not a kid, a young man my age building his second property. And he went through so many ups and downs, lost money, gained money, right? But all of those things that he recorded and went through, if I was to ever build a building, I already know. So I don't even have to have those losses. So I can look back on his testimony, right? And I can be better than him. And that's why he's putting the videos on so that people watching can be better than him. Right. So let's read this last precept real quick.
And if you think about it, man, that's why knowledge should be increased. A lot of people, man, they rely on the teachings that were taught to them by older people that came into this truth earlier than them, right? Not knowing that, yeah, man, those teachings are good, but knowledge shall increase. Why? Because now you're getting that information that took them years to gain. You're getting it early on in your truth journey, right? Meaning that where you go from here, you can only take that information that they gave you and expound upon it even more and get more clarity. So knowledge shall be in truth. I mean, it shall be knowledge shall be increased, because a lot of us, man, we take what our teachers teach us, and we reverence those teachers so much that we don't dare test what the teachers are teaching us, right? We don't dare prove it because those men were anointed and they got the end all be all, not knowing that the Bible even tells us that at the end knowledge shall be increased, right?
Right.
Yes, Bishop Nathaniel, and I'm just using this as an example, hypothetically. Yes, Bishop Nathaniel had the Spirit on him to bring forth certain prophecies and certain truths, right? But what is stopping you from surpassing Bishop Nathaniel? Just because he's a great man today doesn't mean that he has the end all be all, right? You know what I'm saying? Try his knowledge and sharpen his knowledge, right? Build on that, because I'm gonna be honest, man. In this truth, errors come and go, right? And more truth is expounded, more things are being revealed, more things are being taken deeper, a deeper look into, right? And so you can't be afraid to change with the times as long as it's according to the Bible and it's truth, right? And don't shun somebody away because they have a new revelation and it makes sense, right? Just because you would rather go with what you've been taught.
Yeah, and so a lot of times nowadays, the leaders, the teachers, the guides, right, the powers that be, they don't give you the tools to surpass them. The tools to surpass them are seeing them make mistakes, right? They put off to you and to their audience that they're perfect, right? That they don't get confounded, right? That they don't misstep, they don't misspeak, they don't ever get corrected by by an entity or whatever may have you, right? They don't show you that. And so you think that they are perfect and you think that you can't test or try them. And so now when you try to be like them, right, using the things they told you, when you get confounded, you automatically think you're not as good as them. You
And
automatically think that you're not worthy enough to even be teaching because you never saw your teacher or your guide or your leader fall like that.
right, everybody knows everybody's not perfect, right? But very seldom do you see or hear about a leader coming forth in front of their congregation and saying, you guys, we've been doing this, but we had this revelation and we have a change of heart on this, that, and the third because of X, Y, and Z. And moving forward, we will now be operating like such. Very seldom do you see anybody do that, right? And it should lead you to question, are they staying stagnant? Are they staying prideful to the doctrine that they've adhered to, just to make it seem like they got the monopoly on the truth? Or are they actually trying to grow, right? And a lot of the times, man, a lot of leaders, right, are not trying to grow, right? And there's no shade to Bishop Nathaniel. I referenced him. I referenced him as an example. Matter of fact, he actually came forth and changed something that they've been doing for years to that point, right? He's one of the few that have came forth and made changes in his doctrine, right? And I think one of the reasons why leaders don't want to do that is because they feel like, if I do that, I'm gonna lose my following because they're not gonna trust in my leadership, right? Not knowing that, man, that's what we're looking for. Your followers are looking for new truths and new revelations and stuff like that. Nonetheless, man, if you just be truthful, whether they leave or they go, man, that's who you're supposed to have. But a lot of times our leaders have a spirit of, oh, I got to keep them all to myself. And let's keep them coming back for more. That type of spirit. So I'm not gonna tell you everything. I'm gonna hold off on some. I'm gonna keep some stuff in my back pocket. Matter of fact, you might have to pay for my Patreon to get this, right? You might have to pay for this academy to get this, right? They keeping you in the back pocket. Don't give them everything. Don't give them too much. Have them coming back for more. And when you do that, that's getting into vanity, right? That's getting into the business aspect of things. This is what the Christian church does. This is what hospitals do. When you go to the hospital and you're supposed to go there to get better so you can get out, but they do everything they can to keep you there because they benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? And this whole lesson is talking about teaching you enough so you can stand on your own, so you can have this truth for yourself, so you can be grounded, not grounded in your leaders, not grounded in your congregation, right?
Another example would be like in grade school, you have some teachers that get offended when there's a student that is constantly correcting the teacher, right? And growing up, I used to think that was definitely disrespectful too, until I got to the age of where I know some of my friends are teachers now, and I know they don't know it all. I know that they aren't, the smartest bunch or the smartest apples under the tree. So if a kid corrects them, I'll be like, hey, look, good for that kid. But, you have some teachers that get offended and, they want to reprimand and talk to the kid's parents and say he over talking me and he feels the need to, disrespect me in class. And they'll even go so far as to yell at the student. I've seen it before when I was in grade school. They'll yell at the student and say, I'm the teacher. Do you think you know more than me? Blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. I lived way longer than you have, blah, 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 blah. But then you also have the teachers that will pick up and notice that's a smart kid and go to the parents and say, I think your kid needs to skip a few grades because they're way advanced, right? So just a difference in teachers, right? And who is more prideful and who is more humble and actually wants to see their students progress, right? But nonetheless, let's read this last precept.
Psalms 119 and 99. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation.
Right? So eventually you want to be like David and have more understanding than all your teachers, right? And how are you going to get that more understanding? Like we said earlier, by going through their testimonies and meditating on their testimonies. You should meditate on your friends' downfalls and how they got out of tribulation. Meditate on your parents' shortcomings. Meditate on your teachers' uh, uh, downfalls. Meditate on these things that people struggle with, so you don't have to struggle with them, and that's gonna make you more understood than they are. Because guess what? They didn't. If they fail or if they failed at something, it's because they didn't have the understanding to get through it. But now that you see how they failed and how they conquered, right? Now you have that understanding that they didn't have at that time. So that makes you have more understanding than all your teachers. Not also spiritually with this truth, right? You'll understand that, like the brother Denal said, knowledge is being increased every day. So, you know, some of the things that your pastor that you might have loved back in the world, or your motivational coach that you might have loved back in the world, you thought he was, you know, so profound. Some of the things that he didn't know, he didn't have access to spiritually and physically, right? We're living in the information age now to where you're seeing kids that are 19, 20 go into real estate and have multiple properties. And you're seeing so many entrepreneurs at young ages make millions, right? Because there's so much information out there that wasn't out there for the people, right? And so they're better than their parents. They're better than the people that taught them about LLCs and all of that, right? And spiritually, it's the same way. This Bible wasn't really unlocked like that. So we can't blame our parents. We can't blame our pastors. We can't blame people around us, our grandparents and stuff like that, because our knowledge has increased over them, right? And so, but we shouldn't, on the flip side, we shouldn't use that and say that we're better than them, because guess what? They did instill something in us, right? We did take away something from what they instilled in us by meditating on testimonies that they went through, right? Go ahead.
Example, just a quick example, man, that kind of came over me, right? But an example that somebody should take heed of this lesson would be in relationships, right? Now, you know, I didn't come from a broken home, but right, this is something to think about. Those of us that have been products of broken homes, right? Very seldom do I see people really examine why their parents didn't work out and end up being victim to the same mistakes, or just being victim to having a broken home themselves, right? Yes, you know, it's easier said than done to break family curses, right? You have to actually sit down and think, my parents didn't make it through. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't see it through. Something happened, right? You're supposed to learn from that and become greater in your relationship, right? But that also takes you to examine very, very closely what your parents did, right? Where they fell off, where they couldn't persevere, right? And a lot of times we get away from that, and we have the feeling that we want to break family curses, but we don't know how, because we haven't took the time to examine where our parents and our grandparents failed, right? There's no reason why we should have this type of thing happening and people aren't learning from it. It just comes from a lack of interest, a lack of examination from the previous things. And if you let these things teach us, right, we should be able to move forward and actually break these curses, right? Because we're fixing the problem.
Right. And on that note too, you know, a lot of our parents, grandparents or whatever, they don't want us to be better than them. And that's why this video is also made too, because our teachers, our parents, guys, whoever's ahead of us, right, they should want us to be better than them, right? And sometimes we get lost in that cycle to where those teachers and those guides and those parents, right, and those pastors, that's over.
You're gonna be just like me. Watch what I tell you.
You're gonna be just like your daddy. You ain't ever gonna be. You'll see when you get older. That man gonna leave you. I know. I've been through life. That man gonna leave you. That you see, even, you know what I'm saying? They don't ever want you. They want you to live through the same thing that they lived through, right? But what you can take from this video to that aspect is just know, man, just pray for them, because, you know, being a leader the right way wasn't taught to them. Being a parent the right way wasn't taught to them. Being a pastor the right way wasn't taught to them. All right. They never had a lesson like this. All right. But nonetheless, man, that's the lesson, man. Hope you guys got some wisdom out of that. The brother say, what do you say? Let me pull this up real quick. It says wisdom is the principal thing. Salakia. The brother RS says wisdom is the principal thing. Khan, you know, that's what the Bible say. It says folks, they boast in the knowledge, but they do not get life experience, right? They boast in the knowledge, but they do not get life experience. Meaning there's brothers out there that claim to have the knowledge of this Bible, but they don't know how to apply it, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning they may try to give advice to somebody. They might be 19 years old, no kids, not married, but they're going to give the advice to somebody. They're going to give marital advice to somebody. They're going to give, child raising advice to somebody, right? And they're not even the head of their own household yet. You know what I'm saying? And yes, you can get knowledge from the Bible, but wisdom does give you that life experience. Right. And so you can definitely tell when somebody's being naive or ignorant. But Khan, like what the brother said, man, get wisdom, get experience. And the only way to do that is to get taught properly, right? Get the tools and the systems needed to become better than the person that taught you properly, right? And then better works are going to be in you, right? Better works. And you know who the master teacher was? It was Christ, right? And better works are we going to be doing than him, right? So if you're not gathering the sheep, you scattering, right? If you're not gathering, you're scattering. This is another Wisdom Wednesday. I'm the brother Azrael.
Brother Danal.
And we'll see you guys next time. Shalom.